Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Heath with magplus. Thanks for joining today. Today I'm going to talk about a feature called Import DPS Overlay. And the audience for today's webinar would be basically existing customers of Adobe who are using either DPS, which is Digital Publishing Suite or Digital Publishing Solution, or the more recent AEM Mobile, so the Adobe Experience Manager Mobile. Each of these products are going to use something called overlays when you start creating with your InDesign documents. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Also, I just want to let you know before we get going that we do have a support article basically on our website. So if you Google this here, basically Adobe Digital Publishing Suite to the magplus designed converter tool, that's what I'm going to show today. But this article will give you a step-by-step instructions on how to do that. It looks like maybe some people might want to mute if they can, who are attending online here. So first, let's talk about the Adobe document. So what I have here is a project baby. This from images like baby carriers, car seats, anything to do with a baby. So this is from a catalog that they had that they converted from DPS to magplus. And if you take a look at some of these items here, it's just a single layer, but you're going to see quite a few grouped items. Right here, you'll see there's buttons, multi-state objects. I'll go ahead and start with that just so we can show you the overlays panel. So over here on my left, I've got the overlays panel. Each of these is a type of interactivity that you can add with AEM. So hyperlink, slideshow, image sequence, audio, video, of course, web content, which would be HTML, pan and zoom, and scrollable frames. So magplus supports every single one of these types of overlays. We also support one that Adobe's removed, which would be the Panorama. So if you have any like 6-image, inside of a cube type of panoramas, you can do that in magplus. It's a really terrific feature. So you basically create the panorama, and the app will use the gyroscope built in to the device, so you can essentially just move your device around and cruise around the panorama. So it's really a great little feature. So let's go ahead and just take a look. I'm going to select here a multi-state object. And the way you do slideshows in magplus is with a multi-state object. So, and the same with AEM. So it's a nice thing which is built into InDesign to add interactivity, obviously, because this isn't a print feature. So if you come down here to the options, which is sort of this bottom section of the panel, you're going to see there's autoplay, tap to play and pause. You've got the delay. If you'd activated this, you can sort of have the interval, of an autoplay. And so if you take a look in here, you can see this is state number 8 is selected. And then if we head up here to the interactive submenu, you can see object states. So each of these then will be a state for that backpack, for that baby carrier. Go ahead and close that. So you got quite a few features. Crossfade, there's a speed. You can swipe to change the image or not. These various things. So what will happen is that magplus, we have our own feature set here. So a lot of these may be similar, and we do. The ones which are similar, we're going to import the exact same value over to the magplus setting. So let's go ahead and take a look at that feature. So obviously right now you don't really know what device this has been designed for. You can sort of guess it's basically based on the grid here. So it's 1024, it looks like, vertically, and about 700, you can see 768. So if you know your resolutions of your devices, that sounds like an iPad standard definition, which basically isn't used so much anymore. But it's a good example to show. So regardless, if you don't know the type of device, magplus is going to figure that out for you. So I'm going to go ahead and close this document. And in the magplus design menu, you're going to see here's all the basically majority of the features are going to be found in this menu. The one we're talking about today is the import DPS overlay. So I'm going to go ahead and select it. You've got this 2 sections here. So first, you're going to choose the overlay document, and that's this 360-degree collection. Once it's going to load up the path here, and then you've got a few import options. So the first one being, you can open a copy of the document, which I'm going to do here just for the demo purposes. Obviously, you don't need to do that, but it's nice to kind of compare them side by side to see how close do we get when we converted this document from Adobe DPS over to the magplus design format. The second option is called Create Auto Orientation Pages. Now, this is something Adobe doesn't have that magplus is kind of known for from the very beginning. When you create a layout with your InDesign document, you can create it in the auto orientation. And that basically means you can have it in portrait or in landscape. Now, this document was designed in the landscape mode. However, if you wanted to change that and just use a single file to create it in multiple orientations, that could be done. Oops, wrong one. So we could select that. In this case, I'm not going to. We just want to make an exact replica of what we had. The second item is, or this third checkbox is, it's called Move Overlay Items to the Pinning Layer. So if you are creating an auto orientation, and when you change orientations on your device, we have a feature called pinning in magplus. So that basically will keep something in the bottom left or top right, top left, etc. So a lot of times you may want to have that interactive object in that part of the screen. So this would do that. So you could move those items to that pinning layer, and then they sort of float on top of the background B layer. And then I'll show you that in a second here after we've opened up the magplus vertical, all the magplus layers. The next fourth checkbox here is Convert All Buttons. So a lot of times you may be using hyperlinks in InDesign, and this would essentially convert those to magplus hotspots. So I would definitely, this is on by default, so you definitely want to do that. The last one here is if you are using master pages with your design. So by default, we won't import, or we won't convert those buttons or any interactive elements you have on master pages. So, and also this will create an override. So you actually are creating a new item for each master page item on every single instance where that master page is applied. So we recommend having that on as well. So let's go ahead and get to running this here. Some missing links. Ignore that for now. So you can see it's already opened up one document, which would be the Adobe overlay document, and then the second is the one being generated. And the great thing here is that you're getting a summary. So I didn't know what kind of device it was, let's say, and it's going to tell you. So it's an Apple iPad. Then we give you some info here on the document. Well, there were no portrait slides that imported, and one landscape slide. As I showed before, it was a landscape layout, and it's giving you the pixel height and the pixel width. Overlay. So it's giving, this is a table of all the types of overlays that are found. Pan and zoom, looks like there are none. 3 slideshows apparently. No scrollable frames. Web content or HTML. Nothing. Hyperlinks, obviously there were the buttons. Oh no, sorry, hyperlinks would be separate in this case. Audio overlays, video overlays, there's one video it looks like. No image sequences, and no panorama, since this is, I'm running InDesign CC 2017. The last version, I believe, was 2014, which had support for panorama. So if you're using something older like that and had a panorama there, that would actually get imported. And the last little section here would be the button. So 53, quite a lot of buttons in this. So let's go ahead and close that. And I'm gonna get here, scroll this so it comes into view. So this is the magplus vertical. I'm gonna show you the vertical panel. And it shows, okay, it's an Apple iPad. Great thing with, you can switch that easily enough to iPad Retina since the aspect ratio is identical. It's got the mid version, which would be the current one, as 8.0. And it's using the name of the file here for your ID and for your name. So we strip off any white space, which can't be in the ID, but we leave that in the name field. Orientation obviously was landscape, as I mentioned here. These other values basically keep all the default settings. So we'll go ahead and hide that. Now let's come back over here to the layers panel. So in this case, everything's getting moved over to the background layer. And you're going to see almost an identical set of page items. So let's jump back to our original document. magplus, original. That looks almost identical, except obviously for these blue and green rectangles. What are those? The blue ones are going to be your clickable areas. So everything which you can touch to add interactivity, you're going to have a clickable area. So we can hide that layer. All those items are going to be here on the clickable area layer. Show it again. Now the way this works is it's actually showing everything regardless of the current active slide or current active object state. So it is, so maybe it seems it could be a bit cluttered, but here, for instance, you've got the 4 baby carriers. So when you click on one of those, it's going to show this large one, right? So here's the black color. So it's a good way to show, for instance, I've got 5 colors of my baby carrier. Let's put them into, like, here's a little tab design, which has each sample small. Then I can click it, show this one, and perhaps maybe I want to have a 360-degree rotation on that. So that'd be a great way to do that. So basically, let's go back down here. We're going to select our multi-state object. You can see the overlay content is still there, but really we now only care about what's the magplus design content. So here it is, same name, multi-state 3, and it's essentially going to copy all of those settings that were there before. So you're going to have some different ones. It's user swipeable. We actually can change the color or decide to show the slide indicator dots. So the dots will show up on the bottom of any slideshow, and the number of dots represents the number of states in that object state or the number of slides in the slideshow. You can customize those colors right here, and you can also add transparency, which is great. And then you can, there's another separate value for the current slide indicator. So by default, it just shows us a little bit darker, but you can change it to a different color, have a different transparency on it. We have loop, autoplay, you have the interval, and duration. One of the neat things is this transition effect. So instead of just the normal slide, you could have like a fade in between the 2 images, which is pretty cool. And if you choose that, you can then essentially set the transition duration. So how long should that fade last? And that's that last transition duration value here. So we'll go back to what the default was. Yeah. Other slideshows here are always going to be the multi-state object. You have buttons, which would be a separate thing. So yeah, quite a few features. Videos down here. So you can see it's a full screen movie. You've got the file here. Here's the path. Yep, MP4. I don't have that actually at the moment, but you've got some options. So you can share this as a sharing feature if you want to share it to somebody else. Auto start, of course. These are some neat things. So let's say this wasn't in view. If it's if the slide isn't active when you first load that vertical, so you can actually change that so that it will play when that object comes in view the first time. And then there's a couple other things. You can, the first time it comes in view per the vertical or for the issue. Yep. yes, we have the ways you can basically hide the video player if you're, for instance, this is a full screen movie. So that's going to pop up on top of everything else, play the video, and then when it's done, if I have that hide media at end, it will disappear. A couple other options, this is basically just the media block. You can have audio, sound effects, and other types of movies here. Yeah, so you can loop that movie and restart essentially when you toggle it. Okay, so that basically is the sort of your starting point. I mean, really, this is going to get you, I would say, 99% of the way there. If you're converting some of your assets from AEM, if you have overlays, it's going to convert them over. You may want to check to see if there were a few properties which may be different. However, if you look in some of our the scripting DOM for magplus, you can see we're importing over 100 different settings here for these different overlay types. So it's really quite robust. Yeah, so that would be basically the import overlay feature. Now what I'm going to show, let me close both of these. We're going to jump over to the scripting. Now this is installed in your scripts panel. So if we come over here and you want to come down to utilities, open up the scripts panel, and I've already got this here. So when you install the tools, you get a magplus folder, and this is inside the JavaScript sample right here. It's JavaScript. You get a magplus folder, and you're going to get looks like 6 different documents. So the one I'm showing is it's from the magplus menu. So any of the items you would run basically from up here, you can find sample scripts in that file. So I've modified this one just a little bit so that it points to my document, and I've disabled them, but it's got this. There's a sample for importing a new vertical, for importing a print document. But the one I'm going to show right now is the import DPS overlay. Let's go ahead and run that, and that was it. It was pretty quick. So what happened? Well, yeah, same thing. So if you wanted to, for instance, automate that, so you had 100 vertical or 100 InDesign files that are created for DPS or AEM, and you want to do it quickly, convert to magplus, you can just have a script here, just like that, go through and automate all those, and you're going to get the exact same result as you would get if you did it via the dialog. So if we take a look again at the JavaScript, you can see here are the settings from the dialog. So these actually are the same default values that you would get in the dialog. So if you want to open up a copy or set the auto orientation or set the pinning, convert buttons, overrides, you can do that here. Obviously, here's the file path. If you're trying to do it for a folder, you would essentially just modify your script so that it iterates each document of the folder, and you just pass in a file object. So here it's the new file object. But that's it. So really simple and a huge time saver. I just want to mention that this was a magplus Studios project, and this is prior to us having this feature. So I believe our designer, this was about a 2-month project for the designer to go through. I think it was about a 120-page catalog and manually convert this from DPS to magplus. So you can see how much time this can save. But anyway, if you do have questions, or if you do want to contact magplus Studios, please send us a mail. We're happy to do this for you. And with that, I'm going to see if we have any questions here in the webinar. If not, this is recorded, and feel free.
Hey,
Hi there.
I have a question. Can we publish directly from PowerPoint using this DPS feature?
From PowerPoint, you would need to translate it first. So it would need to be imported into InDesign. It doesn't come from PowerPoint directly. So if you imported the PowerPoint into InDesign, and if it were a AEM document. So basically, you would need to, let me go back and review that. So if you're creating a brand new one, if you come in, change your intent to mobile, and here are the devices from the AEM side. So this would create a DPS or AEM document, and you have these different devices. So you basically need to do that first. The import does look for this mobile intent. So for instance, if you had a print document, which is letter, this feature is going to report an error. It's just going to say it's not a DPS document. We do have a separate print import feature, and I'll discuss that in a different webinar. But yeah, so this is specifically for print intent, or sorry, for mobile intent, and that would be an AEM or DPS document. Yeah, thanks for the question.
Yeah, hi Heath.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, does this DPS import feature supports all Android resolutions, or does it support Kindle also, Kindle templates?
It does. It supports Kindle and Android. I believe, yeah, it looks like Adobe by default just provides templates for Android 1280 by 800. However, if you had made one, you know, with some of the other sort of standard Android sizes, we support those. So we currently support 4 Android templates and 3 Fire templates. This is a bit older, where it says Kindle Fire. We're supporting the most recent Fire devices. So yes, you'd be able to do that. And it would be automatic, as I mentioned at the beginning. So we automatically determine which type of device your file was created for. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi Heath, I have a question. As I know that we can import DPS file into the magplus designed single file at a time. So if we have a bunch of files, like we have 100 files or 50 files in a folder, and so can we import directly at a time all the files in the magplus design?
You can if you script it. The way the UI feature right now, it's importing a single document. However, the JavaScript I showed can be repurposed quite simply to iterate the folder contents and import each of those.
Yeah, because from magplus design we can import only single file at a time.
Via the UI, single file at a time, correct. So it's just a single document. And then if you'd want to write a script there to do that.
Okay.
Takes about a couple minutes.
Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
And if we have a content in iPhone 4 template of DPS file, but we have dropped the iPhone 4 template from the magplus design. So if we do import, then it will not convert it into the magplus design. So then how can we convert that iPhone 4 template DPS file into the magplus design in a particular device like iPhone 6 or 5?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, so we did drop iPhone 4 support from the current version of our apps. So what I would recommend is contacting magplus support. They can provide you a previous release of the design tools, which still supported that. So essentially, it'd be a 2-step import. So you would import your DPS files, which are iPhone 4, and then you would do a multi-device export to iPhone 5 or iPhone 6 to that size. So it would be possible, but it would be a multi-step process in that case. So if you have older versions of this, has been around now for a little while. So I believe if you go back to the 7.0 tool, there was iPhone 4 support.
And is there any way so that we have a content in iPhone 5 and we want to directly import to the iPhone 6 or iPhone 10 template? Is there any way so that we can directly import to that file?
Yeah, so that would be what we call the multi-device export. So I can show you that here in the panel. So for instance, this is an Apple iPad, but let's say I wanted to convert it to a more modern tablet. So you could say, all right, I want to convert it to the Apple iPad Pro 10.5, and this you essentially just would choose this feature called export to additional devices. And that we do have folder support for. So there's what we call a, well, sorry, this is actually a folder export. But essentially you would convert the DPS document, if it's iPhone 4, you can then import that, then convert it to an iPhone 5 right here, right? And this would all be automatic as well. So there's different, it's a little bit, you know, you have different scale rules which will come into account. Layer scale is the default and the most common. So, or you can have exact, you wouldn't change the image size at all if you just center things like this. So but that's how you would do it. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. All right. Well, unless there's anything else, guys, I just want to say thank you. And again, we'll post this online. And any questions, just send it to support@magplus.com. And again, that was import DPS overlay. Super time saver. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.